these last 18 months, like this thick boy life.
Welcome to Thick Boy Fight Club. I'm your bulking boy.
I'm Tyson the Beast.
And our guest today is the one and only Scarlett Delgado, formerly Punching Princess, now the Punching Queen, the number one boxer in Ontario at 54 kilos, two-time silver glove champion, aspiring pro wrestler, was actually even on the national freestyle wrestling team.
Real wrestling.
Yeah, real wrestling.
And now she's a pro wrestling aspirations.
So excited to have one of the baddest females we know on the show.
But first,
shout out to our sponsors.
Top Mutt Studios.
Another badass female we know. Top Mutt Studios, Kangen Water, Bearded Bites, Blessed Edibles,
Clinch Culture, Mo Mine Kimura,
Dank, Gas Tank,
Major Pack, Just for Kicks. Who else?
10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, Delgado Boxing, Toronto Top Team. And I'm sorry if we forgot anyone.
Yeah, we love you all, though. Love you all.
Thank you all for the support. Let's get into the Thick Boy restaurant shout out. For me, I'm gonna go with the Keg, right by Bramley. I know it's a chain.
Bruh.
But they've been letting me eat there every day, asking no questions, hooking me up. Specifically, the one at Bramley City Center, the Keg. I've been on a steak and lobster tip, so I do have to shout them out and all the managers there.
I got a better one because they did more. 17 Steakhouse in Mississauga. Once again,
wow.
You know when I give a shout out to anywhere outside of Tobu, it's for a reason. Shout out to the owner, Vic. He also owns the whole complex where Sugar Daddy's did. Let us go there on Saturday night. Played both the Canelo fight, which was a pay-per-view fight, and the UFC fights for us. Let us close the place down. Thank you to all the staff that let us stay there
Big
till
shout out to
1:30.
17.
Everyone was passed out, me and him were going crazy. So big shout out to those. And amazing food overall too. I mean,
oh man,
the steak was amazing. The good wine. It was just a good overall vibe.
It
was just a good overall vibe. And I said, fight fan, let us watch the fights there. So I felt like an old school mobster the way we were in there closing it down. So 17 Steakhouse in Mississauga.
Scarlett, where do you like to eat? You got to give us a shout out to a local spot you love to eat.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, my local spot's in like Burlington.
That's fine.
That's fine.
And it's not really as gourmet as like all these other places that you guys are mentioning.
That was a shout because of the circumstances. Yeah. Whoever you want to shout out.
Nature's Emporium. They've been fueling me while I'm cutting weight. I can trust their food if I have to go somewhere from point A to point B. So I definitely give a shout out to Nature's Emporium. They got really good food for fighters like myself.
And this is in Burlington?
This is in Burlington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there before. Do you go to the one on, where is it, on Appleby line? Or just
Appleby line in Upper Middle.
Yeah,
it's really good there.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
So yeah, let's get into it. But before we do though, I do want to just, some new products we got up. So if you want to show them, we got ski masks out. We got the hats. We got the black and white, the hats as well.
Trucker hat style.
And a big shout out to my cousin, Myra, who helped make this. Thick Boy Fight Club soap.
Same.
All right. It's all natural, charcoal, clay-based. And yeah.
All right, selfless promotion. Let's go. So, tell us a little bit about your origin story. I know you used to wrestle and you were a really good wrestler back in the day. Obviously, everyone knows about the boxing and you're transitioning to pro wrestling. Like, just give us your overall origin story, how you got into athletics and what brought you to the point you are now.
Well, the athletics actually, it wasn't. My dad's a boxing coach, as you guys know. You guys are with him all the time.
We've had him on the show, yeah.
Exactly. So obviously, as a kid, I'm running around his gym all the time since he was able to hold me in his arms. But everybody thinks that that's how I got into the fighting, which wasn't it at all. My grandfather actually passed away when I was 13, and my grandmother told my dad, she needs to do something, so get her doing something. So after school, they would take me to the gym, and he actually showed me how to kickbox before everything else. Oh. He would have me standing there at the bag doing just one teep over and over and over again. And I kind of think he just wanted me to be busy while he was teaching a class.
Makes sense.
But either way, that's what I did.
Been in the gym
over and over again. And if he didn't hear the bag, he'd start yelling at me, Scarlett, I don't hear the bag. Okay, keep going. So I started with that, and I wanted to do kickboxing. And he said, no. he actually didn't think that I had that kind of grit in me to be a fighter.
Wow.
Because I wasn't like a tomboy growing up. I didn't have like all those like kind of stereotypical stories like rough and tumbling with the boys. It wasn't like that. I wasn't even allowed to push my cousins because they were too fragile. So I was just
wow. Yeah. Show to adult cousins now. They're like, damn.
They know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyways.
It's a pro wrestler in there. See how she turned to the camera? Very well done. Very well
I
done.
back up my statements. So
so how old were you then?
When I started going to the gym, I was like 13. And when he had me on the bags like that. And then
so when did I meet you? Because when I met you...
You met me when I was 13.
Yeah, you were already pretty much getting into boxing then.
Yeah.
He used to have me like, you know, get in the ring and let you punch me in the face. And I would never do that now.
I would.
He literally put me in the ring and said to me, just punch him in the face. And I thought, okay, like I thought he was going to make me miss and make me chase him. Yeah. No, he put his hands behind his back and let me punch him in the face.
Oh, I was moving my head and like rolling with it.
It makes sense now years later. As,
you know what I mean?
When you have these gaps in
case that answers any questions.
Scarlett Delgado. If you ever have any questions about Boyan's mental,
just ask me.
Well, this is how she got nicknamed the Punching Princess.
Exactly.
You were pretty vicious from the start. You know, you had that in you, like wanting to hurt people. Let's be realistic.
Maybe my dad just didn't want to see like his daughter go in the ring. I don't know. He never like disclosed that to me.
It's justifiable. The concussion rates are a
like
little different.
I understand. And back
sense.
Then, female boxing was not like a big deal. Like it wasn't in the Olympics back then. It wasn't like
Layla was probably the only person even known.
Yeah, like
then,
Christy
right?
Martin, Layla Ali, like that's pretty much what was going on. But at some point when I was in high school, I saw like a poster for the wrestling and I thought, oh, maybe I'll try that because I just wanted to do something and it always wanted to be something to do with fighting.
Yeah.
And I took a chance with it. I went to my first tournament. I broke my toe my first match. And
wrestling?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I just didn't know what I was doing. I had no coach.
I heard you were a really good wrestler though.
This was my very first tournament, my very first match. Like I said, I didn't have a coach back then. I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
I won my next 3 after that with the broken toe and I won the bronze for the tournament. So when I came home with that to my dad, I was like, look what I got. And he's like, oh my God.
What have I done?
Yeah. So I continued that year, still no coach. I dislocated my hip at provincials, still winning provincials. Then I asked my dad while they were taking me to the ER on the phone, I was like, so is this good enough? Like, can I fight now when this is all over? And he was like, well, let's just see what goes on with your hip. So when I recovered, then he's like, okay, fine. Like, I'll let you start boxing.
Yeah.
And then I took a year off just to let my hip recover from everything. And I met my wrestling coach, Dave Mayer, who took me all the way to nationals. Dave, he's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best. I love him.
So did you stop wrestling because of boxing? Because obviously everyone knows your boxing background. Is that what kind of, you just decided
like
to
you
dial
are
in
known
on
in boxing?
Yeah, because I did like maybe 5 or 6 tournaments with Dave leading up to nationals. I went to nationals and my dad had let me do a few boxing matches in between. Uh-oh. And then when I came back from nationals, he said to me, my dad, okay, well, you can't go to the Olympics for boxing and for wrestling. You're going to have to pick one because you can't put 100% in both.
And he's right.
Sure. Exactly. So I chose the boxing because it was something that I had wanted to do from the very beginning.
And it's something your dad was teaching.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, although female wrestling here in Canada seems to be doing better than the men, like we seem to have way more women here that like at this level, to be fair. But obviously I think it was a good choice the way it played out for you and how it's planned out. So what was the transition from now? I know you wanted to go pro and that was another conversation your dad kind of was like he didn't want. So how did the whole pro wrestling thing come into the fore? Because I've been to one of your matches. Obviously it seems to be going very well. You definitely fit the whole bill. Like you got the character.
Well, I mean, I think she has so much experience. Like how many boxing matches do you have?
49.
I mean, it's a lot. And then you've been under those lights enough times.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? Like, what was the introduction to the pro wrestling, and like was it?
I gotta give credit to my mom with that.
Nice.
Really?
My mom,
Shout out to her mom.
My mom, she's the original OG for this one. She just messaged me because she's always been saying for years, like, oh, you need to go into, because she saw the Bella twins.
Yeah.
And they have like the kind of like a same background as me. Like I think they're Italian.
Yeah.
And they have some like white in there or something. So they have long brown hair and they kind of look like me.
Yeah.
Funny, very funny. Latinas. So she's like, you need to go in there and be like their evil cousin from South America and just like kick their butt.
That's what you feel like.
And I would always tell her, like, Mom, I don't know anything about WWE. I know nothing about that stuff.
Oh my God.
So she's just like, whatever. And then one day she texts me and she's like, they're doing the first ever tryout in Toronto. You have to put an application in. And I said, well, like, I don't know that stuff. And she's like, who cares? Just put an application in. Because what if they do call you? I said, okay, fine. Doesn't hurt to put an application in. So I did. And I did not think that I was going to get selected because they were asking, like, how many Olympics have you been to? How many TV appearances have you had? And I'm like, none for all those things.
Yeah, but that's such a small percentage of female athletes, period. So it's not like that's the only thing they're looking for.
Right. I don't know that industry. So I didn't think anything. I put all my stuff in and I didn't even think about it. Months go by and I'm at the gym and I get this email saying that I was selected to be in the tryout. And there was like thousands of applicants and they only picked 50. And
here in Toronto, though.
Yeah.
But think about, can you name 50
no,
female?
not here in Toronto. They came from all over Canada.
Oh, so it was all of Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, but think about 50 female, like, people who actually fought before is a small percentage. Anyway, I know a lot of tough fighters who are female.
It was male and female.
How do I put it? They don't have the best look on camera. You have that, and then you're just a good athlete. So
thank you.
By default, that's gonna thin the herd. If you know what I mean. Like, how many girls can say they have 50 boxing matches that are trying? No, it's true. Most girls
and a legitimate wrestling background to the point where you're on the national team.
Yeah, like most girls who I think jump in this probably just want to jump straight in. I know girls have done it. They weren't athletes like you were. So it had to have been something they looked at right away and said, oh, wow, she actually has some legitimacy to her.
I would like to think that. Like I said, I don't know how the industry works at all. It was just something that kind of just happened. So I went. It was a 3-day tryout. They did a physical the first day. The second day was like the fitness testing. The third day they did matches, which I couldn't participate in because I didn't have any experience in that. But it went really well. And I think that, I got a lot of really good feedback. So that's why they sent me to Battle Arts Academy. And shout out to Battle Arts.
Dave, Anthony, Neil.
And,
Anthony Corelli, yeah.
Yeah, Anthony Corelli. They said specifically for Anthony that he is the one that is, the coaching there. So I should go there. And they trust that academy. So I said, okay. And that's when I began going there to train. And then, of course, COVID hit. So that delayed a lot of progress in that department. But so far, it's been really good.
So it was the physical test. It was the last thing you got to do, right?
Yeah.
So even then, like, and you can be honest, obviously, but like, did you feel like there was a single female there that was on your level in terms of pure athleticism or the physical test? Like, don't be humble. Come on, you're about to be a pro wrestler now. You gotta talk your shit. This is our platform.
It's a conflict between athletes and pro wrestling.
Look at you trying to be humble now. Talk your shit.
I think, in all honesty and all fairness, that a lot of people in the pro wrestling industry do not have good education on fitness.
Yeah.
I think that they're given this very gray blank over, especially the women, because it's like, how do you learn to be fit and strong while you're doing a sport like this if you don't have any guidance for the woman's body, because it's so dominating to the men's kind of.
Yeah.
Women are just recently starting to really explode in WWE and AEW, NWA, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that they just don't have the knowledge and the experience and nutrition plan for this kind of stuff. Like, not at, they're not going to nationals for boxing, let's say. I'm just use my sport as an example. They're not going to nationals for wrestling. They don't know what it is to cut weight, to have to be at a certain conditioning level, to actually have to have to actually fight.
Perform like a real fight.
Exactly.
Well, that's kind of the point of what we were talking about earlier with Gable Stevens, who just won the gold medal. They've had tons of guys who were, they had their Brock Lesnar's, they had the Kurt Angle. So when it comes to men, they've already had Olympic level athletes. Who outside of Ronda Rousey, and you would probably know better than me, who's the most accomplished female athlete that's now in the WWE or any of them?
That isn't like a diva personality.
No, who actually had an athletic Olympic level background?
That's only Ronda Rousey then,
right? Whereas if you're a guy and you go to
let's be fair, I don't think Ronda Rousey would have got signed or been paid as much as she had if it wasn't for the UFC.
I agree.
Yeah, she was a pro fighter.
She was one of the baddest females on the planet as an actual legitimate fighter. That's where the intrigue came to bring her over to pro wrestling. And I think you have, on a obviously not on a grand scale as Ronda, but you have that as well. You know what I mean? When they look at you, you fought boxing, you've actually competed in wrestling at a very high level here, amateur. Why wouldn't they want to take you on?
And do they even have a high level even boxer or I mean, outside of actual Olympic style wrestling, even
unless
the
they're
men,
gonna give Clarissa Shields like a contract,
but even the
WWE,
men,
I don't know.
outside of like Olympic style wrestling, what other professional athletes do they have that transition to WWE? Do they have any boxers or judo or anything like that? Like,
I'm not as entrenched in that world to know.
yeah, okay. I can't think of any guy who's a male boxer who went into WWE. I can't think of anybody.
To me, the guys I know in the WWE are guys that have accomplished things outside the WWE in like legitimate.
Like I know
sports.
UFC Cain Velasquez, but yeah, that had to have been a huge advantage.
But you know what
purely.
too? It's also like the personality. Like, because it is an entertainment industry on top of it. So even though you can have all these accolades, you also have to be able to be very personable. You have to
be an actor.
Exactly.
You
and you're naturally crazy. It's not even acting. It's just who you are. So it's like,
yeah,
you're not crazy. Like,
we all saw your pro wrestling debut. I mean, you played the heel.
You
like,
really did.
Really,
You
really good.
You played it well too.
Thanks.
I think you really.
I wasn't acting. I'm crazy.
You enjoyed that.
So the question he asked that I've always wanted to know was, how did you end up skipping MMA? Like how? No,
I was always
serious
pushing
question.
for that.
I know.
How? Like,
I know your dad didn't ever want you to do
how
that,
many
but
years
I
ago-
think that you would smash so many.
How many years
girls.
ago did Ronda Rousey go to the UFC? Like how many years ago was her? What, 10 years maybe? 8?
Has it even been that long? I don't
It's
know.
been
a
10
long
years.
time.
It's
It's been 10 years?
Because
From her
I
first fight
first saw
to
her in
now?
Strikeforce before she was a Strikeforce champion, and I was 16 years
So
old.
10 years, right?
Okay.
So think about that. So like, it's
Man,
fair to
we're
say
old.
that MMA was much bigger than female boxing by the time Ronda. Because even to this day, you have Clarissa Shields now coming over to MMA. You don't
yeah.
have, you know what I mean? Like Holly Holm was a world champ. Nobody cared
Yeah.
that she was a kickboxing boxer
They
champion.
put Ronda on the cover of Ringside, and not Holly
You see what I'm
Holm.
saying?
Holly
So,
Holm,
like-
and Holly Holm was a boxing champion.
Exactly, it's crazy.
So what? How did that not happen? Because at that point of Ronda Rousey's peak, by far she was bigger than any female wrestler I knew or any female boxer. How did you not, especially with you having an actual wrestling and boxing background? I think you had a better background than she did in judo. I think if I had to pick something for a female fighter to
Boxing
do,
and wrestling?
that's what I'm picking. So how did that end? Was it because your dad kind of not wanting that? What, like, was it a personal choice? Like, what was it?
You know what? Like, I have to try to. I'm going to be fair. Like, of course, accountability. Like, it's ultimately my choice because
Exactly.
obviously I chose to do wrestling against what my father's wishes were at the time. I chose to go to nationals for wrestling against my father's wishes. I chose to do a lot of things against my father's wishes.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of doubt in myself came from a certain way of thinking about my limitations in the sport.
That's surprising.
And you know what? Like, it is surprising for a lot of people to hear that because I love my sport and I always believed that I could do something bigger with it. It's just I always had, I'm not going to say names, but somebody very close to me always like say like, oh, well, you're not, something really big. Like, somebody else can come in very easily and always kind of plant those seeds of doubt.
We'll talk about that after. I don't know that.
But like I said, I think that also too with my hip dislocation, that was the initial thing that was scary for me because I didn't want to accidentally, like if I throw a kick too much or sorry, like too hard and then it would like do something funny.
And jiu-jitsu, yeah.
Like I don't mind it. Like now that I think about it, because I said to my coach Gayton, I said, if I don't get signed by the WWE within the next year or two, I will consider MMA.
Because there's an avenue to make money there and to actually like get something out of all the years you've put in as an athlete.
I mean, this isn't to gas you up at all. Like, obviously you have Valachenko, who's a complete animal, but when I look at that 115 division, I'm sorry, very few girls at the highest level are as good athletes as you. And that's not me just talking shit.
And
like,
how old are you now,
watching
Scarlett?
Rose
I'm
and
26.
Sway Lee, I think as pure athletes, you're a better athlete than either one of them. I really do believe that. I really do believe that. I think as a pure, if you were to go to like an NFL combine, that's also that kind of, I think your metrics will probably do better than any of them at that division. That's my personal opinion. You know what I mean? From what I've seen. You know what I mean? So either way, I hope the pro wrestling thing works out, but if it doesn't.
I mean, you must be a little bit discouraged with boxing because I'm sure you've seen the politics like in the amateur scene.
It's terrible for female
You know what?
boxers,
It is
And
discouraging.
I've been at your fights that you've clearly won, but because like you're not from Montreal or your dad's not in the best standing with Boxing Ontario,
not the biggest fan.
they don't give you the decision, And
it's a very political sport, just like many sports too, right? And that's very well known. My dad had that conversation with me before my first competition. He told me, he's like, there's going to be fights that you win and they're not going to give it to you. And he's like, and there's going to be fights that you lose, Scar, and they're going to give it to you. And he's like, sometimes it just depends like what day, who is showing up and how they're feeling. feeling. You know, somebody could have a fight with their husband and, you know, just be in a bad mood, not like something that you do or, you know, just something so stupid like that.
That's a funny reference.
Yeah, but she's right. We see that at the professional rankings. We see bad judging.
We see it all the time.
So why do we all know why Ronda left and went to WWE? It makes more money. It's less dangerous. But like with what's going on with Clarissa Shields? What do you think her reasoning? Because I'm seeing that she was trying to do both. What do you think her reasoning is for wanting to go to MMA? And do you think it's a bad decision that she was trying to like kind of ride the fence? Should she have went all in on MMA? Because she just lost recently.
PFL's $1 million paydays. Who knows?
Yeah. It's like, what do you think? What do you think it is? Do you think it was the pay, or do you think did you think maybe she looked at Holly Holm and said, well, when she was a world champ, nobody cared. She beats Ronda Rousey, everyone. What do you think her logic was?
I think her thing was the money. Like, I can't speak for her, obviously,
$1 million is more
but
than any female
I
boxer
honestly
make in a boxing
think
match.
that's what I mean, though.
Yeah.
I think it's the money. I think it was the principle of it, and she thought. I think that, of course, like when you're such an elite striker at the level that she is, that
she's gonna have better boxing than anybody she fights.
That's
in
what,
MMA.
yeah. So I think that she just figured that was going to carry her in the MMA, which it could with a lot of girls. But of course, you're gonna find that one girl that thinks, okay, don't strike with her. Let me get her to the ground.
Yeah, and that's what happened in her last fight.
Who did she lose to? Was it even anybody?
A Mexican girl named Abigail something.
Hey, Mexicans are tough.
And,
because she doesn't want, like, Kayla, what's her name? The PFL.
She does not want into that.
That woman is scary. What's her name? Kayla?
That woman easily is probably better than Amanda Nunes.
She's two-time Olympic.
Yeah. She might not have the striking of Amanda Nunes,
but train with Amanda? I've seen pictures.
Yeah, they're best. They're main training partners. So,
but
like,
is she a 45 or a 30?
She's a 55er.
They have 55 female.
Yeah, so the only division in PFL is a 55 female division.
And it's because of her.
Yeah, it's because of her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they now just introduced a few 45 girls because we have Julia Budd, who's a Canadian.
Yeah.
She just got signed by PFL. She was a Muay Thai champion. But you see for the avenue for most
So
females from these
individual
sports, MMA is the place where you can make the most money or WWE.
UFC's not going to burn Olga, so she'll have to come to 45. To get into the UFC.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she can make that.
What do you think would happen in that fight as a female fighter, and her and Amanda Nunes? Who do you think would?
I haven't seen
Kayla Harrison.
Yeah, I haven't seen her fight yet.
She's a more accomplished judoka than Ronda Rousey was. And,
two-time Olympic.
Was she one of the training partners with Ronda at some point?
They did train at some point. They must have. They were probably on the national.
Blonde, yeah, she's an animal.
Okay, I've seen her pictures, but I haven't seen her fight.
But she's done very well in MMA recently.
But I mean, like
she's
the judo alone, like any smart fighter, like I called it with Ronda before she got into that fight with Holly Holm. I knew from the get-go.
Yeah, I tried to tell people that was not going to go the way they thought it was.
No, because Holly Holm is a striker, and she's a smart fighter. I don't know why. I was looking at all these MMA girls fighting Ronda, and they're all trying to do this ground game with her. Why are you going to try to do ground game with an Olympic level judoka?
Well, because to be fair, most female fighters are starting in jiu-jitsu. Yeah, it's just
some of the best female fighters were jiu-jitsu fighters.
Female boxing is much more rare than female jiu-jitsu is now.
I'm glad you're gonna think about doing MMA, because when you really think about it, your hip can't be holding you back from that if you're thinking about doing WWE.
No, but I get
right. It's a little different though.
At least it's a little more
stretch.
Like in jiu-jitsu, you sometimes have to react without knowing how you have to. You know what I mean? You have to do, and then just the training for it, right?
Pro wrestling, like the outcome, outcome might be fake, but I think it's as real as anything.
But if we go off of what we've been knowing, and you kind of, I know with Gates on the stuff, I can just tell the way you train. I think a lot of those injuries come from the fact that these guys are trying to look a certain way and then still be athletic. I think it's just, they don't go together. If I'm trying to look like a bodybuilder and then do backflips, you're eventually going to hurt yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
it's steroids, but you know what I mean? I think that's a big reason we see it was you're trying to have that aesthetic, and then you want to move like you're amateur wrestler or an amateur jiu-jitsu guy. The two just don't go together. Whereas with you, it's a little different, right? Like they're not asking you to bulk up and look all crazy. You know what I mean?
It'd be weird if they expect you to start doing like steroids and like start getting big.
But
right?
they, you know what? Not WWE, but like a lot of schools, they do ask for like a lot of their athletes, female or male, to do the steroids. Like coaches will directly go to their athletes and tell them to do it.
Have to. Unless you have that background like a Ronda, or you're well known like a. I mean, because Gable doesn't look like he's on steroids, but when you win an Olympic gold medal, you don't have to. But if you're just a nobody, there a lot of it has to do with the aesthetic.
Gable is not really the look they want if you really think about it.
No,
he's
but
not chiseled.
Because when you're 260 and do a backflip, they'll take you.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Like,
and when
you know what they actually want from the woman is the implants and stuff like that. That's the aesthetic. It's like the steroids for the men is the implants for the girls.
But you guys aren't expected to look as big as possible. If you're pretty and athletic, it'll get you.
Like they're kind of deriving away from that now.
Wife? I remember that was like the most famous thing on cable when she came out with the handprints on it. Every teenage boy remembers that.
Triple H's, yeah.
I like China.
Yeah,
I
Sable.
like China.
I forgot about that. Yeah, so like, in terms of what's going on with the pro wrestling, you guys just had a match recently, correct?
Yeah.
And that was at Battle Arts?
Yeah, that was at Battle Arts.
So when's like, how often are you doing these matches? Do you have like, is it set up like a season, or is it kind of like a MMA fight where you just kind of, you get a call and you have a week or a month to get ready?
The guys who co-own Battle Arts with Anthony Corelli is Dave
Shout
and
out to
AC.
Dave.
Yeah.
We're gonna have them on the podcast, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, they'll love this podcast.
Yeah. I was just talking to them the other day. We're gonna have him on.
They'll love it.
He said he's in. He said he's in.
So, yeah, they actually own HW, which is Hamilton Wrestling Entertainment. It's a network, I think.
Yeah, they have a network thing deal. He told me all that about.
Exactly. So that was the show that they did. So since they own Battle Arts, and they had the show, we were well advanced aware that we were going to be in the show wrestling, who we were going to be wrestling. So usually with these shows, when they happen, especially with Battle Arts, because we're very lucky, we have Nick Andrews. Shout out to Nick Andrews. He is a guest WWE wrestling coach, and he goes and he also coaches people at Battle Arts. That's why Battle Arts has such a good reputation.
Yeah, they do.
With WWE.
It's the only gym I know that's like a legit pro wrestling gym.
There's another one in like Liberty Village, but I know it's not the level of.
Battle Arts is the only one I know.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I didn't even know that pro wrestling was even in classes before my tryout.
I didn't know anything about
me neither.
Anthony Bell, any of that. And I was working right down
Anthony's
the street.
known because he's a judo black belt.
Yeah. And that was another. He had that background. He was a legit guy too.
Yeah.
So do you know when your next match will be and like anything like that? Or?
I think December 18th. That'll be Rising Stars at Battle Arts.
I've seen one of those shows. Is that one of the shows you were on last time?
Yeah. I was on with Amy Crimson.
And this is at Battle Arts?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what's going on with I know you're going to be training here in the next couple of weeks. I know you're going to Poland. Like, so if you're allowed to talk about that, like where are you going next week to train? What's going on in Poland? Like, kind of give us a breakdown of what's going on.
So for boxing, because I'm still active in boxing, I train with my Olympic team, I like to call it, Sydney Vanderpool. Big shout out to my amazing boxing coach, Sydney Vanderpool, former champion himself. Him and Olympian Mandy Bujold, Canadian champion Caitlin Clark, former Canadian champion Mackenzie Wright. A lot of amazing talent in that gym. So
he's a solid guy to Kitchener.
Yeah, in Kitchener.
Yeah, he's a solid guy.
It's a great team we have. We all work really well together. We recently got a new teammate as well, Jordan Conrad. She's from BC, so we're all working together really well. So we're gonna go to the INS facility in Montreal, which is for the national training camp. It's kind of like, because of COVID, we couldn't do a nationals this year. So this is kind of like seeing where everybody's at.
Yeah.
And then the following week, we'll be going to Poland to do some fights. And what I believe we have lined up is the national champion for myself of Poland and the Czechoslovakian lined up for me.
And so who from what you've seen out of the two is the tougher fight? Who seems to?
I haven't even watched any of their stuff yet.
I would assume Poland would be the place with the higher level.
Yeah, Poland has.
I would imagine
fighters,
because I think that it's a. I don't. You know what? I have never fought in that part of Europe.
Only Czechoslovakian boxer I know is Hellman. And he's like, not really Czech, but he's from there. Literally, I'm not being funny. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Does it count?
And when he told me, he was like, there's Czechoslovakian. I was like, what? I thought you were like Afghan. He's like, oh, my family is, but I'm Czechoslovakian.
Combat sports is big in Poland, so.
Yeah, it is.
That's why
they're
I
tough.
assume.
They're very tough.
Yeah,
they always make it really
Jan
high in the world
fight.
champion rankings.
Yeah.
They're really good boxers. So I'm extremely excited because I've, any opportunity I have to fight other high level female, because these girls in Europe have been fighting throughout the whole pandemic.
Yeah, especially Poland. Poland said F this from the jump.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, we're having fights.
Yeah, they have a little bit of history with this type of foolery, so they weren't falling for it again.
Yeah, exactly. Smart.
Smart.
Just saying. So so you're fighting the national champ. So it's basically her backyard, you know what I mean? So it's obviously going to be an issue in terms of the politics. Like what's your mindset going in there, knowing the politics in your own country?
Yeah.
What's it like to know you're going to a place where somebody's been able to train the whole time? She's, like you said, tough. Probably has tough male training partners. Or what's kind of your mindset going into enemy territory like that?
It's really exciting because after 20 months of not fighting, and not only to get back into the ring, but with somebody so elite who's been fighting, as you said.
I love that response.
It's so exciting because it's like, I know that I've been training. Obviously, like competing and training are very different.
Of course,
the test matches with my Olympian teammate, it's even for her, it's not the same as an actual fight.
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of those things where I'm really excited to challenge myself, and I'm really excited to see where I am right now with all, the new training regimens that I have been having.
Well, I follow you and Sid. It's like, I can say this for all fighters I know, male and female. You're one of the few people I know who kind of really kept it disciplined. Like, a lot of us didn't these last 18 months. Like this thick boy life isn't, it's not easy. But
I mean,
somebody's got to live
it. I think I've always known you have an Olympic level work ethic.
Yeah,
and,
like I just see the videos. Yeah,
you have been an Olympic hopeful in boxing. You could have done it in wrestling. Clearly,
Thank you.
So I can't wait to see what you do in pro wrestling and hopefully MMA.
And so was the connection with Sid just because you were sparring with a lot of his girls? Because like I said, I follow him both, and he posts you a lot. And like I said, this whole time it looked like you looked in fight shape the whole time. Like, you never seemed to have taken that kind of. Like I said, I know a lot of our Thick Boy members can't say the same, where a few of us have went up a weight class. Shout out to Adam DeFreitas. But there's been a lot of weight class changes for a lot of fighters.
Yeah, a lot of catch weight fights.
Catch weight fights.
So like, how did that connection happen? Because obviously it's out in Kitchener, but was it because of his female fighters that you went to the spar and one day you were just like, hey, this is the new home? Like, how did the connection happen with him?
I always knew that if things didn't work out at my gym, that I always knew in my head, because I had to do it before. If I wanted to be the best, I had to train with the best. And the number one in North America is Mandy Bujold. And I'm very lucky. She's 51 kilos. I'm 54. We're close in weight.
She's in North America.
Pardon?
She said
she's Olympian.
Yeah, she's 2-time Pan Am champion.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And also an Olympian.
Well, you can be the best in Canada and not be the best in North America.
Yeah, I think she has like 12 national championships. I could be wrong, but I think it's 12
she's probably one of the most accomplished boxers.
No, that's very cool. I know she's solid. I always see her stuff, and so that's kind of the connection was that.
Well, yeah. So when it didn't work out at my gym, I was like, okay, well, wherever she is, I don't care where she is. Wherever she is, I'm going there.
And she's from Montreal?
No, she's from Kitchener.
Oh, so she's actually from Kitchener.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's from Kitchener, born and raised. Yeah.
Wow.
So and that's very convenient for you. It's only an hour drive, not even.
Yeah, to train with the best. I mean, like, some people would say, oh my God, it's so far. It's like, but if you're getting the best in the country, wouldn't you drive 45 to 50 minutes?
That's light.
Like, exactly. That's nothing.
You do a GSP. You used to
I used to drive 3 hours just to train with Antonio Carvalho because there was barely any other MMA guys.
You drive to Iowa. I mean, Rob Kimmons go just to train with Josh Neal, like 3 hour drive, train for an hour and a half, drive.
I drive back 3 miles back. Wild.
Eating crappy food on the way at Burger King, like getting tossed around by those guys. So before we wrap it up, now I know you're doing some coaching over at Battle Arts, and obviously, as a fighter, that's eventually your future. So, kind of give us everybody the where they can find you, whether it's social media, what events.
Plug yourself. All your social media.
Fully plug yourself. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Give us your little wrestling promo.
I'm not ready for that.
Just tell us where people can find you if they want to train with you, and female boxing's blowing up for fitness wise. Just give yourself the promo.
So basically, female boxing is getting a lot bigger, and there's so many more young people that are interested in boxing, which I just think is phenomenal. And I think that good coaching is very hard to come by. And of course, when you're young and you want to try a sport, you want to make sure that you're in the sport for the right reasons. You want to make sure you have somebody who knows what they're doing that's going to take care of you, especially when it's a combat sport. Save your health, save your brain cells. So you can find me at Battle Arts at Tuesdays, Thursdays at 6 p.m., Saturdays at 8 a.m. You can follow me on social media, Scarlett Delgado, just my name, first and last name. You can find me on Facebook. I have Scarlett, I think it's Scarlett the Boxer on Facebook page.
What's the clothing line thing you've been doing too?
You can find me on Millions. So you go on millions.co, you type in athlete, my name, Scarlett Delgado. You can support me there. You can find my merchandise. I have t-shirts, I have hoodies, I have hats. More to come soon, hopefully. And I think that's all my avenues.
No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. Like I said, with female sports blowing up like the way they are, girls like you are going to be important to the next generation. I feel like now
you're a trailblazer.
Yeah,
really,
I think because of the Ronda Rouseys of the world and stuff, like you're the real pull sees when you're coaching the next level. So thank you so much for having
Punching Queen. It was a pleasure.
Now,
thank you.
We got young punches that you're gonna be training, which might be the Olympic hopefuls. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Awesome having Scarlett here. I'm Tyson the Beast.
I'm the Balkan Boy.
And we're Thick Boy.